Welcome back to the deep dive. So, you see those massive container ships out on the ocean, and you have to wonder, right? Not just what's inside, but how on earth does a company manage the incredible financial risk to get it from one continent to another?
Exactly. It's not just about moving a product. It's about building trust where there is none, across time zones, cultures, everything.
And that's our mission for this deep dive. We want you to get a really solid, quick understanding of the key financial tools, the operational nuts and bolts, and the bigger strategies you need to actually succeed in international business.
Right. Because you have to understand, this isn't just selling your product in a new country. Every single deal is shaped by, local politics, economic swings, social norms. It's a completely different world.
We're going to unpack how businesses handle that massive risk, starting with the one tool that underpins almost all of it.
It all comes down to trust.
Okay, let's unpack this, and we have to start at the absolute foundation of global financial trust. A letter of credit, the LCE.
The LC is, well, it's foundational because it solves the single biggest problem. What if the buyer doesn't pay? Its whole purpose is to swap the buyer's creditworthiness, which might be unknown, with the bank's.
A bank that everyone knows and trusts, so the seller in, say, Vietnam doesn't have to worry about some company in Ohio they've never met.
Precisely. They only have to worry about the bank's reputation. And there are really two main ways this works. The first and the oldest is the commercial letter of credit.
Yeah.
This one's the primary payment. I mean, when the seller meets all the conditions, this LC is the payment. And it's all governed by a set of rules from the International Chamber of Commerce, the UCP.
Which must be a lifesaver. You have one set of rules for everyone, everywhere, instead of trying to navigate dozens of different legal systems.
It standardizes the whole process, which is absolutely vital. Now, the second type is the standby letter of credit.
How is that different?
It's not the payment itself. Think of it more like a safety net. It's a secondary thing, only used if the customer fails to perform an obligation.
So like a guarantee.
Exactly. The parties involved don't actually expect it to be used. It just guarantees they'll get their money back if, say, an advance payment is made, but the goods never ship. It's a guarantee of performance.
That makes a lot of sense. So let's zoom back in on that commercial LCA. Can you walk us through the players involved?
Of course. So let's say you're buying something. You are the applicant. You're the one applying for the letter of credit.
Okay, I go to my bank.
And your bank becomes the issuing bank. They're the ones making the actual promise to pay. The seller, who's waiting for the money, is called the beneficiary.
And there's usually a bank on their end too, right? In their country.
Yep, that's the advising bank. They just advise the seller that the LC is real and ready to go. They don't have an obligation to pay, though. They're just a messenger, really.
But what if the seller is still nervous? Maybe they don't trust the issuing bank's country or something.
Great question. That's when their local bank can step up and become a confirming bank. They add their own guarantee on top of the issuing bank's. They are taking on the risk themselves, so they have to be very confident.
What's fascinating here is the core principle behind all this.
Yes, and it's that the banks deal only in documents, not in the goods.
Wait, what does that mean?
It means the bank isn't liable if the actual contract is broken. If the seller was supposed to ship 10,000 microchips and they ship 10,000 bricks instead, that's not the bank's problem.
As long as the paperwork says 10,000 microchips.
As long as the paperwork is perfect. That separation is what makes the whole system work at scale. It puts all the pressure on the documents themselves. The paper basically becomes the currency.
And what kind of paper are we talking about?
Typically, you need a commercial invoice, an insurance document, and the big one, a transport document, usually the bill of lading.
Ah, the bill of lading.
Yeah.
That's the one that proves you actually have control of the physical goods.
It's the link. So the buyer and seller agree, the buyer gets the LC, the seller ships the goods, prepares the documents, and only when the banks agree the documents are flawless does the money actually move.
Which brings us to the danger zone, right? The discrepancy.
Huge danger zone. Our sources point to a really startling number. About half, 50% of all first-time document presentations to banks have discrepancies.
50%. That seems astronomically high. That sounds like a logistical nightmare.
It can be. The errors can be anything, really.
Yeah.
The LC itself might have expired, or the documents are stale dated.
What's that? Stale dated.
It means the seller waited too long to present the shipping documents after the goods were shipped. It's a red flag for the bank because it suggests a delay, and the whole point is speed and certainty.
So the seller basically sat on the paperwork. What else is wrong?
Oh, simple things. The description of the goods on the invoice doesn't exactly match the LC. A document is missing.
the wrong shipping port is listed, any little thing.
And if that happens, the payment just stops. It freezes. The whole process grinds to a halt. The exporter can ask for the documents to be sent anyway on an approval basis, but they won't get paid until the buyer and both banks all agree to waive the error. It's a mess.
It really just underscores how critical the commercial banks are. And I guess institutions like the Export-Import Bank, the Exim Bank.
Absolutely. The Exim Bank often steps in to finance deals that might be a bit too risky for commercial banks, especially for big capital goods. They're like the oil that keeps the whole machine running smoothly.
Okay, so let's pivot. We figured out how to secure the money. But what about actually, making and moving the goods? Let's talk about outsourcing in global logistics.
A huge topic. Companies outsource to get expertise to lower costs. But just handing a project off isn't enough. You have to be strategic about it.
Right. And our sources lay out some really clear best practices. First, you have to define everything up front. The scope, the schedule, everything needs to be crystal clear.
Especially for something complex, like software. You need a real domain expert, not just the cheapest person you can find.
And that's a key insight, isn't it? Don't just be ruled by price.
It's so counterintuitive. But the really experienced buyers, they often just throw out the lowest and the highest bids immediately.
Why the lowest?
Because it's a huge warning sign. It usually means the vendor misunderstood the project, or the quality is going to be terrible, or there are hidden costs they're not telling you about. It's smarter to find a balance.
And maybe start small, like a test project.
That's the way to do it. Test their capabilities before you hand them a mission-critical project. And you have to tie the payments to milestones.
Oh, that's huge. Don't pay it all up front.
Never. For an IT project, for example, the rule of thumb is no more than maybe 20 or 30% upfront. The rest is paid out as they deliver clear, measurable results.
And you've got to sort out the legal stuff, like who owns the final product.
Right at the beginning. You don't want to get to the end and find out your vendor thinks they own the copyright to the software you paid them to build.
Then there's the human side, the culture clash.
It's real. Sending one of your own trusted employees to the site for a few months can work wonders. They act as a bridge, smoothing things out, making sure everyone's on the same page.
Okay, so from outsourcing production to the logistics of moving it, what are the big trends there?
Companies are constantly deciding what to keep in-house and what to outsource. Things like customs clearance, warehousing.
And the really big, sophisticated companies are building their own control towers, right?
That's a great way to put it. We call it an internal 4PL model. It's like they're creating a shared services group inside the company to manage all their global shipping across all their different business units.
So it's like creating your own internal FedEx to manage all your actual shipping partners.
Exactly. It gives them total visibility. But it also means they have to build really strategic partnerships with their logistics providers, their LSPs. It's not just a transaction anymore.
It's a partnership. You're sharing forecasts, planning capacity together.
And the weapon you use to fight all the chaos in global shipping, the weather, the port delays, is visibility. You have to be able to see everything in real time.
But just seeing that a shipment is stuck in a port doesn't help, does it?
It doesn't. That's why you need the second part, exception management. The system has to be smart enough to flag the problem and alert the right people to make a decision.
So you can reroute a shipment instantly, not find out 3 days later.
That's the goal. And it lets you move from fixed shipping rules to something much more dynamic. You're constantly looking for the best way to move things, to combine shipments, to fill every truck and reduce every delay.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting for me. The product is built, it's shipped, the money is secure, but you still have to sell it. You have to win over the customer.
This is all about the launch strategy, and it rests on 4 pillars. The first one is you have to know your unique selling proposition, your USP.
You have to be able to answer simply, why should someone buy this instead of the other guy's product?
If your team can't answer that in 1 sentence, you're not ready to launch. It's that simple.
Pillar 2 is getting your own team to buy in. You need a product-driven culture.
Right. Show your own enthusiasm. Make sure your employees actually use the product. Some companies, like John Lewis in the UK, even give employees a share of the profits. It makes everyone an owner.
Then there's timing. Pillar 3. You have to get the timing right.
Seasonality, your budget, and maybe most importantly, can you actually meet the demand if the launch is a huge success?
And that last point is so critical. We have a perfect, if painful, example of this. The Mosquito Magnet Company.
Oh, classic cautionary tale. They had this amazing product, a huge hit, but they failed completely at planning for that success.
The orders poured in, they panicked, and they rushed production to a mass market factory in China.
Without the right quality controls in place. And the quality just fell off a cliff. It was irreversible.
And the result was devastating. A company that was doing $70 million a year in revenue was sold for just $6 million.
It's a true strategic threat. A great product can be killed by poor operational planning.
And the fourth pillar, diversify your marketing. You can't just put up a few digital ads and hope for the best.
You have to be everywhere your customer is. That could be product hunt, it could be influencers, it could be industry events, maybe even old-fashioned flyers, whatever's relevant.
Now, all of this gets way, way harder when you go international.
Exponentially harder. Marketing something locally, like a regional food specialty, is fairly straightforward.
But internationally, you're dealing with different laws, different consumer tastes, huge financial risks.
And the masterclass in how to do this right is Coca-Cola. In the 80s and 90s, they had this very standardized, American-centric approach.
And it led to a backlash, right? People saw it as cultural imperialism.
Yeah, they did. So Coke learned.
Yeah.
In 2000, they launched their Think Local, Act Local strategy.
The product is the same everywhere, but the marketing is totally different.
Totally different. The key was to focus on universal human values, things like happiness or sharing. Those translate anywhere, but the execution is purely local. They use local celebrities, local cultural moments like the World Cup.
They keep the core message, but they tailor the delivery for every single market.
And it works.
So what does this all mean when you put it together?
It means that doing business globally requires this incredibly robust and complex system. It starts with the financial plumbing, the LCs that build trust.
Then you need the operational engine, the smart logistics, and the strategic outsourcing to deliver efficiently.
And none of that works if you don't have that final, very human layer of strategic sensitivity to actually connect with the market you're trying to enter.
You have to be able to think locally, even if you're a massive global company.
And let's not forget where we started, the commercial bank. At the end of the day, they are still the essential channel for funds, and they act as this global barometer for economic health. They make it all possible.
So here is a final provocative thought for you to take away. The whole system of letters of credit is designed so that banks only deal in documents, not the physical goods. But one of those key documents, the bill of lading, is the very thing that proves you control the goods. So considering that half of all presentations have errors, how much is the global marketplace really relying on the paper promise versus the actual physical reality it's supposed to represent? What are the real-world costs when that paper and those goods fall out of alignment? Something to think about until our next deep dive.